New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, and welcome to Rockin the Love. I am Robyn Olmstead.
I am Gil William Olmstead, and this is Henry.
Yeah, Henry decided moments before to jump into his place. But that was pretty good because it was like I said, places, you got to pick your seat, and up he went. So here we are. And we have yet another guest begging to get on that's about to jump up. So if you see another dog, we have, chosen a rescue dog to rescue and to foster. So we are fostering a rescue dog, and she is biting Henry's leg as we speak. So anyway, enough about us. So hi, we're so glad you're here. And today's show, we are going to talk about forgiving our story. Hello, John Chastain, and Merry Christmas and much love to you. We're very happy that you're here. So forgiving our story. What does that mean, Gil?
Oh, wow. Well, generally speaking, it's whatever we've decided is true about a situation.
Right, that we carry along into the future.
Because most of the time we just make up something that we think is correct,
right?
Or we want to believe. So sometimes we have to let it go, and we have to forgive. We forgive ourselves for hanging on to that.
So we're going to unpack a little bit of that, but first we're going to talk about our week.
Okay.
Talk.
Oh, my week was good. It's good. I got to go to a special event for a friend and come home and find a new dog in my house. That was fun. Robyn snuck out while I was away and decided to foster a cute little puppy named Frosty. And overall it's been good. There's been some really good stuff. I'm excited about many things coming up and very appreciative of all that is going well in our lives.
Yeah, ditto. And we haven't even really talked about that. We're going on a trip. We're going to California.
We are.
It's so interesting because generally that would get me very excited. And right now it's just like, okay, just remember you're going on a trip. I just want to not forget that. So my week was good.
How come?
Because I fostered a dog. I just decided, if we're not doing service, what are we doing?
That's right. What are we doing?
And I actually went to get a specific dog that they had posted in the neighborhood newspaper. We've got to get, this dog has to be housed today, or they're going to have to go into the system and to the shelter, and like so much drama. I was just like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And I went to get that dog, and somebody had gone and picked up that dog at the foster's place. So there were all these dogs, like 15 dogs there. And I was like, just give me one. I don't care. They're like, you don't care? I'm like, no, just whichever one you need, a place for. But it was really interesting to be so unattached, because I was with our godson, and he's like, Okay, we get this one. Oh no, let's get this one. Oh, this one's so cute. Oh, look at how cute those cross eyes are. And he's like all into this one will be my dog and I'll walk it. That's the biggest lie a child ever tells. I'm telling you.
No kidding.
I'll walk this dog. It'll be mine. I'm going to train her.
I'm not sure what he's trained her to do yet, but
lay on the couch like him.
Oh, that's true. She does like to get up on the couch with him and lay. That's
and she
true.
Does it very well.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, so I took a husky named Frosty, and her and her sister were there, and I didn't want to separate the sister, but they assured me they had been separated and that they were fine. And I was like, okay, because I really didn't want 3 dogs either. But these 2 dogs were abandoned in the desert in Texas. I don't get it. I don't get people and their animals just leaving them places. I get that there's hard times. I get that you run into situations where you can't feed them or you can't have them in your house or all of those things. But the amount of animals, and I'm sure you all know, that go through on the next door newspaper and all over, it's just astounding. So spay and neuter your pets and, be a responsible pet owner. So that was my good news, though. The dog is pretty funny, and they're pretty funny together, and it's really kind of helped to socialize Henry, and it makes Henry like me more because he gets a little jealous. so it's all good. It's all good. Good.
Oh my gosh! Yes, the Animal Rescue Studio. That's where we are here in our lovely home at the moment.
All right. So even more good news, though, is happening in the world. There was a lot of good news to choose from this week, it looked like. So
yeah, there was.
That was kind of exciting. So what do you have?
What do I have? Well, I'm sort of taking us back to a story we previously did, and that's about the 2 young ladies who were in high school that were able to prove the Pythagorean theorem, which nobody had done in over 2,000 years.
Nobody can even say it. Say that.
Right. Pythagorean theorem. And what's really interesting is that they've done it through trigonometry, and their whole premise is that that trigonometry has been being taught incorrectly, and they teach it in 2 different ways. So when you lay those 2 ways on top of each other, you're very confused and you can't tell what's going on. So they were teasing out sine and cosine to be able to write this equation. Well, since then, in the year that's transpired, they have gone ahead and they've published a paper about it. And in that paper, they list at least 9 other ways to prove the Pythagorean theorem.
Wow.
They've come up with at least 10 proofs without using the equation itself, which is how it's always been done. It's always just been, well, that works.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think what's so cool about it is that they're excited about it, that they continue to go forward with it, even as they've continued to grow and go to college and all of that, and that there are teenagers out there interested in getting something done, or exploring something, or figuring out in a positive way how the adults have screwed up for so long. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. Sorry. Yeah, there was something I was going to say about it, but it went out of my head.
Well, for all that time, it was considered an impossible proof. You just couldn't prove it. You had to go with just, it is.
I mean, it's so fascinating too, though, that they decided to go beyond having just proved it.
Right.
It's like, why only prove it once? Let's prove it 10 more times. I mean, I wouldn't want to be their parents, because I bet they could come up with 10 reasons why they should do whatever you just told them they couldn't do. So, but no, I think that's great. I think that's
But they
great.
would at least be well thought out reasons.
Right? They'd at least be like creative and give you something to think about. That's fantastic. Welcome, Shay. We missed you last week. Okay, so my story is about an 11-year-old boy, and it it disappeared. So hold on. About an 11-year-old boy who in London who heard a story on the news about this chef who was who had a Michelin star for his restaurant, and they baked 2,000 Christmas pies for a Christmas fair in York, England, I believe. And the pies got stolen. The truck got stolen with the pies in it.
Oh.
So he is nonverbal, and he communicates with his dad like on an iPad by putting in like notes. And after he heard the news and saw the news with his father, and he understood what was happening, and he wrote a note to his dad saying that man was sad and that pies needed to be baked. And after that, he wrote, "I see sad man, pies finished." And he doesn't speak, but cooking is like his therapy and his way of showing his creativity. And since then, he's been busy baking dozens of pies of all different flavors to fulfill this commitment. And so I just, first of all, I just thought it was a fascinating story on so many levels, because obviously the kindness and the jumping in and the thing. But the other thing is we just don't know. We just don't know what people get or hear or see or sense or feel, out in the world. And I thought, just how perceptive that is, of a kid.
Well, it shows a lot of compassion, clearly. But I think the thing that the most compassionate portion of it is that he acted on it.
Right.
That he didn't just observe that, that sucks. His pies were stolen.
Right. No, exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Once again, not thinking like, oh, that's so sad and that's so horrible, but being part of the solution.
Right.
And offering that gift. And I think it's the thing that happens during this season too. It's where we all recognize like, oh, I can offer myself as the gift in certain situations. I can donate here, or I can drop off a can of food, or I can, buy a gift for a kid, or, and so many ways of just giving ourselves. I mean, even, smile or helping someone to their car with packages, I don't know. So it's just an awareness, and I just thought it was.
Oh, I think it goes well into our topic for the day. To tell you the truth, I really do.
It really,
because we
really
can get
does.
stuck. It's stuck in the story, and all we are is mad and angry instead of shifting the story. He shifted the story. The story's not about a guy that lost his pies. It's about a kid that helped a guy take care of bake a bunch of pies that he didn't have time to bake. I don't know.
Shifting the story. It shifts the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah. So there you go. Good news for the week. Good news for the day. And there's always lots more good news out there.
And we know
We just pick a couple.
Y'all have some good news out there as well. So tell us some good news in the chat, especially like if you have a producer in your life or someone that you care about that has done so much to support you. What is their gift? What is the gift you're going to give them? We are pondering our heads for something to give our producer. Not because he reminds us every 30 seconds, but because we really want to give from the heart. So if you have some ideas, please put them in the chat, and I'm sure he'll approve or veto them.
And we've thought of some great ones so far. You know, the box of road apples and, you know, things like that he might really appreciate.
That was really not nice. All right, I'm going to stop this nonsense before it goes on way too long, because I really want you to want to come back after this message. So stay here, don't go away, and, you know, let's start to think about a story you can share maybe that you're holding on to or you've been holding on to, and we'll go into that in the next few minutes right here after a break on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello. We are back. I am Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love, your favorite relationship talk show. I just dubbed this a talk show because we talk a lot. So we're excited to be here today, and my wife is always excited when I decide to speak. So, would you like to say something?
No, you got it covered.
I got it covered. Okay, good. All right. So check out our various things, like us, do all the fun stuff. And today we're talking about, what are we talking about?
Forgiving our story.
Forgiving our story. Whew.
So, yeah, I was thinking, like, how would you say that to somebody who's not in New Thought? You know, because when I looked up, I always Google whatever I dub the title of the show just to see what comes up. And I was thinking, you know, people don't always talk like our story, my story, because their story is their truth. So why would they call it a story? It's their experience, But when I looked it up, something came up about writing, and I'm a writer, so obviously I could relate to that because it was about referring to it said forgiveness is the way of refers to the narrative where the central theme relates around the act of one character forgiving another for a significant transgression. I was like, oh yeah, it's like what you look for in a story, in your plot, in your theme. And I was like, and it said allowing them to move forward in their relationship or personal journey, often signifying healing and reconciliation within the story's plot. And I was like, yeah, our life.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly it. It's, yeah. So anyway, so we started talking about this topic because at the holidays, a lot of stories come up, right? Around why and how and who. And, I don't like the holidays because, this person never did this, or I never got the presents I wanted, or made me feel left out, or whatever. And, I love the holidays. I mean, I'm not sure why I love them.
I'm not sure either.
I
haven't heard you say exactly is what I meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it was also picture perfect. The holidays were always good. I guess they were always pretty good.
Ours were really good too, generally. I have a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
I really do.
So, but we carry in that energy. I mean, somehow everything seems to get heightened. Everything has a different importance during the holidays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't agree with that out there, that's fine. Just relate it to your life, because at different times it all has a different importance. Whether it's because you're more sensitive in that time, or it's your birthday, or you have some month of loss or whatever. But we all go through those phases where things matter more than at other times.
Well, yes, where we seem to feel things more than, yeah.
Right.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting about, the way we stated it was forgiving your story, is because it's almost like that is the step. It's like a step ahead of actually forgiving a situation, or it's a step after, it depends. Because I think we often create this issue for ourselves because we hang on to some story that we've created. And when we realize we've done that, we can either let that go and then let go of the other stuff, or we can be mad at ourselves for having the story. So now we have a story about ourselves of being less than, not able to do the right thing, whatever that story is, because we wouldn't forgive ourselves for hanging on to the story for all that time.
What did he say? No, it's true. And it sounds confusing, but it's not as confusing as it sounds, because, I mean, in reality, that's really how we get to know people, is based on their story.
That's true.
So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. People tell us their story.
And we get to know people based on their story of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really because it's based on their story of the past, in theory, through the lens of excuse me, y'all, I have to tell you I have a cough, so if it happens, I really apologize. But we perceive their story and through the lens of what we're perceiving to be their current state of consciousness on some level.
Well, yeah, I mean, we tell the story from our current perspective, even though it's about last month, last year, whenever it is, if we're still in a state of consciousness, which is in that place of being angry and frustrated about it, then that's the way we tell the story. Otherwise, we can talk about, how, it broke our heart, or we can move into how it helped us. What did we learn? It's not, it's not always a direct help, but it's what did we learn? What in our life shifted? What were we able to discover through whatever it was?
And based on their story and what they talk about and what they're able to discover, we also can determine if they've forgiven,
Right.
or if they're holding on to, the past, so to speak.
Well, and I would say we can discover that about ourselves too, if we listen to ourselves talk about stuff. I think that's a really interesting thing is I think sometimes we don't listen to ourselves, and we tell on ourselves. We tell how angry we are or frustrated with certain things that, on the one hand we say we've let go of, but the way we tell the story has a little, in it, a little twist of the knife in the story. And I know that's true for me.
Yes, I know that's true for you too.
Absolutely.
No, but I was thinking, yes.
You were thinking yes.
Well, I was just thinking about, our story. Yeah, it's all based on our story anyway, because what we perceive as, that's another show. It's hard, because then we just go down the line of, whose story is it on some level,
Right?
Whose story wins. But and so, do you have a story? What's your story around the holidays? Because there is some story. Well, I do. I actually know what I just thought of what it is.
All right. Excuse me. You're asking me what my story is?
Yeah.
Okay, because you said you thought of it, and I wasn't sure where you're going. So, I pretty much have liked the holidays until I, started to feel like people had expectations that they needed from me, and that turned it into a less than enjoyable experience for me, because I didn't want to have to, do whatever other people thought. And that's my story about what they thought, or what they are thinking, or what they're expecting. But that's my story about how that works. So I push against it.
I thought you were going to say something around family.
Well, yeah, that's another thing I could say. There's more than one.
So I guess you start with the desire to move forward. And I think this kind of goes to the topic we talked about last week. I think there's that element of, one of the steps having been taking care of yourself and self-care and recognizing, and deciding, I don't want to feel like this, and being on some level being able to let that go.
Well, I think too, it's recognizing the reality that the story is just the story that we tell ourselves. I mean, particularly when we're telling ourselves a story of how life is in some previous time.
Okay, but I'm gonna dive into that one a little bit more, because that to me it sounds a little woo woo. It
is a little.
And that's okay. Woo woo's okay, but I want to go deeper than that, because you understand, like, oh, it's a story we're telling ourselves, and da 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 da. But how do we get to a place like, if you really were like, the holidays come up and it bothers me that people expect something of me, and I know that's not totally the truth, and I want to let that go. I mean, because the truth is, okay, sorry, we're going to have a little practitioner session for a moment. I mean, the truth is, so where is it that you're holding on to that on some level? What is it that you expect of people?
Mm.
But my question was going to be, how how do we move forward from there? How do we move into a space of going, I think the first step, like I said, was admitting it, and then I want to change it.
Hmm. I'm ready to let that go. I don't need to hold on to that story.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't serve me. It doesn't help anything. And yes, I think you're really right. And that's part of the forgiving our own story, because our own story is not only about whatever the hurt and pain is, but it's about something about our expectation of how we function in the world too. And it's looking at what we're seeing as so significant in some situation is at some level a reflection of us. It's a reflection of how we see the world and how we function in the world. And so if I'm going to be honest, I have to forgive my own story about whatever it is, however it is I'm feeling about that. Does any of this make any sense, folks? Because we've got a very quiet bunch of people online today.
I know you guys are very quiet today.
And we like to banter back and forth with you.
Are you guys shopping on Amazon at the same time? Don't think I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat how you feel. So forgiveness. Let's move to forgiveness. I feel like, while talking in movie writing terms, I feel like there's above the line and below the line. Like, if you're forgiving, from below the line, it's like it's from victim on some level. Like,
okay,
there's someone who's wronged you and you're holding on to that story. You know what I mean?
Right.
And above the line is more about like the true meaning of forgiveness, like, which I looked up. It says it means to let go or release.
Mm-hmm. Let go or release.
So when we forgive from that place, we're letting go of our attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're letting go of our attachment to the result, our attachment to the why, our attachment to all of that.
Yes, I would say that's absolutely correct. So what do we do? And when we talk about a story related to something that's happened to us, what are we really talking about? What are we talking about? The facts, we could go to court and we could point out that this happened, and this happened, or are we talking about something else?
You lost me on that one. I don't know. Partially because I was reading Shay's, but what do you mean? What are we talking about?
Well, because I think we get stuck when we talk about the word story. We think what we're saying is the description of what actually happened, and that's not the story we carry. We carry the story of what we think are all the implications and the reasons why, and the what somebody else deserves based on their behavior and all of that.
Right.
And that's the story.
Yeah, the story is just like I use the example. The story is made up on some level. I mean, obviously, it doesn't mean that the experience didn't happen. You have your facts, but you interpret them to mean what you mean. And I go to the 4 agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz. It's like, don't take anything personally. Blah 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 blah. It's like, it's not personal. This is your interpretation. So
So I was asking that question partly in response to Shay, saying I disagree with a bunch of it. The story is what it is. And what I was getting at was, yes, there is a body of facts that is what it is. This is it. Here it is. This describes it. But I think often what we carry is our story of the pain that it's caused us and what it's caused, what's happened and how now we can't do this, how that over there doesn't work anymore. That's the story around, and that's the part we have to forgive is and let go of, is this idea that because of everything else is true. Because really we're making up the everything else.
So I have a story. So here's my story. When I was 9 or 10 years old, my dad was in the hospital. He had an operation, and I guess it must have been on my birthday. And so I found this note that my mom had written to my dad that said something about blah blah blah. I don't know, whatever. She said, I have to run out and pick up something for Robyn's birthday today. Okay, well, I was beside myself. I was like, what? What do you mean? Today? You hadn't thought about it before then? They must not love me. How could they not know what they're doing for my birthday? How could they, if they had really loved me, they would have blah, 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 blah. Whatever that story was. Obviously, I don't remember the details, so I'm pretty clear that I've let it go. But the point being, as a child, I interpreted that story to mean that I wasn't as important as whatever else she was doing. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, if my memory is correct and it was seeing my dad in the hospital, that might have been true. Stuff happens. But at 9, it didn't matter. My truth was my truth.
Right. And I think that's the piece. Is the fact is mom needed to go out and get your birthday present. That was the whole fact.
Right.
Period.
Which meant she was thinking about me.
Well, no, that's another story. It must have meant she was thinking about, but it really doesn't mean anything except that that's what she was doing.
Right.
And
same thing. I have a story about art, right? That my art teacher, I went to show my art teacher my project at one point, and she looked at it and she went, oh, it's not as good, it's not as good as Coco or Ronnie's, which were 2 kids in the class. And I was like, okay. And I decided I wasn't doing art anymore. Everyone tried to get me to do art. No, take an art class, do this, do that. Nope, wasn't doing it. I wasn't good enough. So why? I wasn't as good as Coco and Ronnie. That one I hold on to a little. But everywhere I go, I try to let go of it. But no, you know what I mean. So it's like, but it's just those little things.
Yeah.
All right. So the people have gotten very vocal.
Okay. Now. So let's go back to John's first one. My story is through my bias and unclean lenses, and also a story of the past that is gone. It's not the truth. So yes, and I think that's the story we're talking about, the one that's coming through whatever our bias is now. And we can either be in a place of looking at it from above, from the bigger picture, or we can be stuck in it somewhere, is kind of what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And then John says, I'm looking at my real self and deconstructing the false self I present. Oh, that sounds like fun. That's a lot.
Okay, go to his next one.
Okay, next one. Carl Jung said, to become acquainted with oneself is a terrible shock. And what's interesting about that is, yeah, I can see that. I think that's true. When we really look at ourselves, it's like, oh, man.
Yes and no. I mean, I hear you, and I get where it could be. But I like me. And I feel like my journey, I don't feel like it's a terrible shock, but I don't know. Anyway,
You're never
but I get
disappointed in in what you do or how you do it, or the fact that this thing you're upset about over here really, if you look at yourself, it's a reflection of some, not the same exact thing, but you can see where it comes in your life.
Yeah, I don't want to say never.
Okay.
I mean,
good.
it's not a never situation, but I don't know how much weight I really give it. Because at the end of the day, this is just my process, is I go, hey, but look at all the good. Look at what I have done, or look at look at what's next, or look at I mean, so I don't know. I think I've always been kind of an eternal optimist in that I can find the silver lining anywhere.
Well, that's pretty much true. And John goes on and says, and yes, Robyn, we can find hidden treasures in ourselves and see our strengths as well as harsh things. And I think that's true. And even the quote from Carl Jung, that to become acquainted with oneself is a terrible shock. I think if we just let go of the word terrible and said is a shock, I think we would find lots of things, positive and potentially negative, that would shock us, where we go, oh, wow, that's pretty cool, but not have really claimed it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share a quote. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. And that sort of sounds like what you're talking about on some levels.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the prisoner of the story that we tell is ourselves. We're the ones stuck in that story.
Yeah, we're the ones being held captive by the story.
Yeah, no one else is. The people we're talking about, the situation we're talking about, none of that is stuck in that place. We are the only ones stuck in that place.
Yeah. And I think, and when you think about the stages of the story, or of forgiveness, I think that's where it gets really clear to break that down. And Shay says it takes a lot of work to know and love my true self after being abused. I do now.
It's something,
and we do too, Shay.
Yeah. It's something that just flashed through my mind, and that is, this is true whether we are on what would be considered the good side or the less than good side of whatever the situation is. When we have done something that was abusive of someone else, or somehow crossed a line, our story about who we are as a result of that becomes our own prison.
Right.
And, when somebody goes through a process of moving through that, it's not uncommon that whoever was hurt in that situation continues to see them as that, as something less than, or if you will, whereas the only way to survive and move on is to allow it to go on. I mean, unless you're pathological or whatever, but assuming we're in relatively good mental health and spiritual health, the only way through it is for me to somehow forgive my own story about it, to forgive myself. Does that make sense?
Yes. And like Shay said, it takes a lot of work to know and love one's true self. And I think it takes a lot of forgiveness work.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's stages of forgiveness that we should talk about, because I think the first stages of that initial hurt, or anything that you need to forgive, is hurt, anger,
Mm-hmm.
resentment.
Yeah, this shouldn't be.
Yeah. Someone has wronged me, or
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And that's a stage we have to work through.
Mm-hmm.
and generally in a lot of situations, it turns to oneself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you not only hate out there, but you hate yourself, whether you take on it being about you or whatever, for the way the situation has gone down.
But you also have to go through that at some level. You have to allow
Absolutely.
yourself to feel it, because I mean, I'm thinking we used to have this joke with my mom where something would happen, or so, we would say, "Oh, what about this? Oh, mom's going to take care of it," and she, "Oh, that's okay. I don't mind." And so it was this this sort of brushing over it, like, "Oh, it's not really important. I'm not hurt by the fact that no one thought of me," or whatever it was, right?
The Eeyore syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not, it's not feeling the feeling. Therefore, you never get to the place of really letting it go.
Right. No, all the stages are necessary,
Yeah.
for the most part, because it's that waking up, it's that awareness, it's it's what we talk about with deciding that something's wrong, something should be changed.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through that. Then the second stage is hurt. How it made you feel, and that pain.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And actually feeling the pain, allowing yourself to feel the pain of whatever it is, because that's the key, is moving through it. And often in spiritual circles and other places, we tend to try to figure out how to expediently get through things without having to really go through them. Like if we can see a way to go around it, we think that's the better way to go. And it's not always.
Right. And this doesn't have to be a huge situation either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, this is just good communication. Like, I'm thinking about the times with you, even today, whatever it was that you said. I don't remember. It was nothing you meant necessarily bad, but however you said it, I said, wow, this makes me feel like, I always tell Gil that the general population doesn't think like him. He's a very intelligent man, and he has a lot of rules in his head, and he doesn't understand why everyone doesn't know the rules. And so, just reminding him, like, wow, when you said that makes me feel like, you don't think I know what the hell I'm saying or whatever. So I think it's a good rule also in preventing hurt.
Right. Preventing it from becoming something it really isn't to begin with.
Yeah, and being human, we're gonna hurt, and I think that's where the thing comes. Forgiveness is feeling the hurt, because when we carry it around, that's how we come up with the story.
Mm-hmm.
On some level.
No, yeah, we have to explain why this hurts, or why whatever. So what else? What's after that?
Yeah, so yeah, we require that to get through that, to get to forgiveness. The next thing is healing. And it's about letting go and really, really allowing the healing to begin, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure about what's meant by that particular stage, other than it's about not being in a place of blaming or whatever, where you can actually start to let whatever it is move through you. What's the final one? Maybe that'll help me understand it.
Well, yeah, okay, but I want to say that I think part of the healing is when when we can see others or others' perspective from a place of compassion.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, so starting to be able to see the, you know, just it kind of flips our view of reality, so
Right.
to speak.
So we can go into the place of actually looking at possibly what's happening with someone else and where they're coming from and what this is. You know, we talk about the idea of it's all love and that it's all an expression of love, whether it looks like a positive one or it looks like a cry for love. And I think sometimes moving that place of compassion is not easy because sometimes it looks pretty ugly, but that doesn't mean it's not the best someone could do based on whatever else has happened to them, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, and it reminds me of, you know, when we hear those stories about people whose children have been killed and they go and forgive the killer kind of thing. It's like it's a whole different level of healing. And the final one is come together. Don't sing.
Right now.
But it's about you know, bringing all that together, I think, and really it's not a physical thing. It's really, you know, just being able to meld it together and make it make sense, you know. You know what I mean? Only after you've done the first steps, like been angry and hated and healed, and can you let that go, you know, and really bring it all together and let it go, knowing that there's something on the other side of that.
Well, I think that's where you begin to sense, you begin to be able to look at things from the perspective of what has this forced me to learn? What situation am I in now only because of this? Like, I wouldn't be here now unless this had happened, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I'm pissed off I got fired from my job. Yeah, and 3 years later, I'm in a job making 3 times as much money, you know, doing something I really love. You know, I mean, that kind of thing where we see what the progression of our life has been, and we find the place where we can trust that truly it is all for our good somehow and for the good of all. I think that's the other piece, for the good of all. I was just talking to someone about this the other day and about that idea of how, you know, as souls coming into the world, we there is the idea that perhaps everybody creates contracts with one another to play different roles in order for us to have an experience that allows us to expand our understanding, expand our consciousness, expand our compassion, expand whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then truly the whole idea that it's all for our good would be easily adopted, if you will. It would be easily understood as an appropriate theory.
Right.
But I get that it's not always that easy.
So I don't want to leave without acknowledging Shay's comment of it. It doesn't really make sense to me to forgive the story. Actually, it's never really linear like that. The steps have a rhythm of their own.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's claiming that everything happens 1, 2, 3. Just that in general, it's moving through those. And yes, like anything, we step back, we step forward, we skip, and then we come back to something, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think in some ways you kind of just spoke to that, because sometimes we have a story. You just said something about it. Sorry, you guys, my brain goes so fast that I forget what I wanted to say. But you just said, like, I mean, sometimes we're not ready to let go of a story, and then we are, you know, and like you just said, you're the one about job. You lose a job, and then the next next job you have, it pays 3 times as much. And so, at that point, it might be where you are looking at, what were the beliefs you were holding on to, and, were they true? I'm not saying that they're not important and we need to let go of the story because they're not important. I'm not. I think they're all there to teach you and to lead you to the next evolution of belief, because it's all a story on one level.
Yes, and I think with that example, sure, we can look back and go, oh, so my belief was I would never get another job. I would never get a job that paid as well. I would never like another job as much. I would, whatever that was. And so that became my story about being fired. So now I'm really upset because somebody took all this stuff from me. Right? And that's what I was getting at around the story. So the fact that one was fired or let go from their job is just the fact. Then we lay on top of it all these beliefs and ideas we have, and they become part of how we tell that story to ourselves and to others, until we forgive, until we can let go of until we can start to go, oh, okay, that's not necessarily true. It's just a story. Okay. Well, I think we're coming up on the end of our show.
That's our story.
I think we're pushing the edge here.
It is. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of quotes, starting with Martin Luther King, who said, "Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It's a permanent attitude."
Ooh. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to do 3 quotes because...
Oh, my gosh. Okay, let's go.
Because it'll make my producer extra happy. "Forgiveness is above all a personal choice, a decision of the heart to go against natural instinct to pay back evil with evil." Pope John Paul. I mean, that in and of itself could be a whole show.
I think the decision of the heart to go against natural instinct is like that right there. We could talk for hours on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, there is no love without forgiveness, and there is no forgiveness without love. And that's the one that we got to keep in mind, because we're rocking the love, y'all. And so it's but seriously, in this season and beyond, it's like, can we get to that place? Can we get to that place? So we just invite you to keep on keeping on right here, working it through with us. And all of your comments and thoughts are so appreciated and valuable. And,
and we are good. We're okay when we have a little banter back and forth that doesn't agree with everything we say.
Oh, dear God, please don't agree with everything we say,
We'd be worried about it.
Anyway, have a great week, and we will see you next week. And, just in your prayers, just keep our producer, because we just want to love him up so much, because we just appreciate him so much, as we do all of New Thought Media. We're glad we're here. We're glad we're here for you. We're glad you're here for us. And keep on rocking the love, everybody. See you next week.
Bye now.